and things like that, but the foundation budget is probably going to go down because the inflation rate computed by the federal government is minus 2.2%, and the inflation rate impacts your foundation budget. So it's conceivable that when the state publishes what your foundation budget figures are, they'll be down. Nobody knows how that's going to play out yet. And I was also at a MASS conference last Thursday, and obviously the budget was one of the major topics of discussion. And the first person who spoke was Representative Murphy, who's the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. And he says for FY11, it's very, very bleak. He believes that there is a light in FY12, and he also believes that FY10 is stable and the state's not going to have to come back and ask for more money. But even with a projected growth of 3.2% for FY11, there's still a $3 billion hole to fill. And the problem in the state is compounded because they use so much one-time money to fund the FY10 budget that they're in the same situation as everybody else is. You know, if they don't get federal stimulus money, they dipped into the rainy day fund, all this kind of stuff, they have to figure out how they're going to solve that hole. He did say that as far as, he was talking to a room full of superintendents, so, but he did say that there's no one on Beacon Hill that wants to cut Chapter 70 money. That there's consensus across the board that they want to keep the Chapter 70 money as it is. And he made it a point to tell us that the governor's budget is the governor's budget, and it will be looked at because the governor's a Democrat. If the governor was a Republican, it probably wouldn't be looked at. But the House is going to put their budget out in April, and then the Senate's going to put their budget out in May, and he said you're probably not going to write figures till July. Now, you got to, I mean, obviously we can't wait till July to do this, but, so, I guess the point I'm trying to make is the figures that we have and the figures that we're looking at are very much in flux. I would like to just say one thing, and that is the increase of $1,017,387. You know, if I eliminated all the operation and maintenance money that's projected for the FY11 budget, I would just cover that gap. If I took all the operating money away from the schools and said you don't have any operating funds anymore, you have to make it some other way, I don't come close to covering that gap. So what I'm saying is that if the gap stays the way it is, and I'm not, again, my disclaimer is this is, you know, with what I have right now, I don't know what extra money's coming in. The committee's going to have to make a decision as to which way it wants to direct us to go, because I know low student numbers in the classes are very important, but you're looking at people. I don't know any other way to tell you that. You're looking at people because you don't have enough money in your program, in your non-salary line items, to cover that.
A couple of questions. On the $160,000, the half of the IDA money that we are not including, that's because it's supposed to be held back for new and innovative programs. Do we have any idea how we can twist something that's in existence to make it look new and innovative? Because we desperately need that money to offset the operating budget.
We have asked Chris DeAndrew to take a look at that and to see if there's some way we can redefine things. Right now, we don't, you know, I don't know whether you can do that or not. That's why it's not included in the budget.
If we can't find a way, do we lose that money, or can it be held over for the following year?
The FY11 criteria hasn't been issued yet. I know that in FY10, you couldn't hold it over. You could hold over the SFSF money,
Right, but not
which is
the-
more for regular education, but you
Right.
could not not hold over the IDEA money. So we're just, as Dr. Manville indicated, we're just playing that one very cautious until the definitions come out. And we don't have an answer on the carryover.
Is it restricted to only special ed programs?
Yeah.
Okay. When we talk about Medicaid reimbursement that comes into the town and not directly to the school department, can those monies be applied to thinking creatively about how we could get that Medicaid special ed money? Can it be used for personnel that we don't have to take over those responsibilities so we can get that money?
You're referring to the municipal Medicaid
Yep.
funds. First of all, the number isn't that, it's, I think the town is budgeting $40,000 for that this year. I say that from memory, that's on those yellow sheets we go over Friday
Okay.
mornings. And presently, the town's philosophy for that money is that it's part of all of the town's revenues.
Right.
It's thrown into one pot. I can tell you that that's a controversy across the state. A lot of school departments
Right.
feel that that should be attributed to school, yet presently we all share it. But to answer your question, if it was directed directly to the school budget, you would have, as I understand it, full ability to expend it for special ed programs of any nature.
In the salary line item, how many teachers are you counting on retiring?
We will know February 1st. Our projections at this point are to use the most recent figures, which are last February 1st. And I believe, you know, you always have surprises, so I'm always reluctant to come up with a specific number, but I think we're using a number in the vicinity of 5 or 6 at this point, 5 or 6 retirements. There'll also, of course, be other attrition based on people coming and going, non-retirees. But the attrition savings, we don't know what they are yet.
Okay.
Remember, we're only in January, so
Right.
we play it cautious with every one of those kinds of questions. We'll have more information on that soon.
We did communicate with everybody who, in writing, who said they were intending to retire. We communicated with everybody, but asking people to confirm their retirement plans by February 1st. 2 teachers have already said they're not going to retire. They came back and said we're not retiring, so we'll know next week.
I know in this current budget, we were able to absorb a surprise for the former superintendent that was a significant buyout. So maybe there's some room in that budget, in that line item.
I hope so.
We won't have to repeat that.
I hope so, and to expand upon your comment, the town's philosophy for retirement payouts for municipal employees and school employees heretofore has been that those funds are taken off the top, so that those funds did not come out of the school budget. Once a year, I provide a retirement payback budget figure to the town, and that's on the top of the line. Those are funds that
Before the split?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'd kind of like to back up a little bit. I'm not getting a buyout. No, I'm kidding.
Did we sign that contract?
Your eyebrows really are
We'll give you a nice party.
We barely brought you in. I wanted to bring up Chapter 70 because I'm confused. Because Keith, you just said that the money that the governor has proposed is equal funding to last year, and I'm under the impression that it's almost $800,000 more. So I have a number last year of $6,047,449, and then the proposed number by the governor of $6,823,391. So I may have a wrong number for last year. I'm just, Carl, do you?
Well, as you know, we've been corresponding on
Right.
this matter appropriately, by the way.
Right.
And
Just asking questions,
Yes.
saying, I don't understand. At one point, I thought it was
Informational.
equal, now I think it's more.
yes,
I'm trying to understand it.
I have to keep reminding myself that it's January.
Right.
And we're not going to be appropriating money and having a lot of answers until June. So as we start this very long continuum of a budget process, there is sometimes some confusion. The Chapter 70 funds that were issued after the governor's State of the State address last week, that were sent to both Dr. Mindel and myself had one Chapter 70 figure. Since that time, another Chapter 70 figure for North Reading and local aid figure has been published through our state representative's office, which I assume is more recent.
That's the one I have here.
And so I'm aware of that $800,000 discrepancy. Of course, that's all pre-legislature. That's a sitting governor running for election. So we can cross our fingers and hope that that $800,000 figure sticks, because that will go a long way to solving our problem.
But I will say that once that figure's out public, it behooves us and our constituents to keep reminding everybody that they can that that number is public now, and that we certainly need that $6,823,391 figure for our school system. And I also noticed Reading almost got a $1 million increase in their $945,000, while Linfield and Middleton remained the same. But, you know, that figure obviously would go a long way toward meeting a lot of our issues. So I think it behooves us to push for that figure.
I thought the thing that came out to me was that the governor's comment on that the undefined local aid should also be held up. That those are linked numbers.
Right.
And that somebody got the message through to them. But I think they're still vaporware at this point.
Well, we've got a $1 million increase in our salary area, and that's where the hit is. Carl, when our preschool program is downsizing, and you're not gonna collect as much in tuitions, do you downsize the staff? How do you keep that program self-supporting?
Ask Dr. Mindel to help me with that question, but I'll start out by saying that two things have happened with the kindergarten program. The first one is that Christine Danjou is forecasting less special education children to come into the program next year. She's involved at a very early stage through referrals, is able to have a pretty good handle on the incoming population. So because of that decrease, it's a formula. There are less so-called typical students allowed to pair with those special ed students. Secondly, it used to be 3 or 4 years ago that there was a waiting list from here to the town of Reading for this pre-K program. No longer is that the case. There is no waiting list, and whether it's economy, whether it's other factors, it's just not as popular a program. So we have less potential students. The demand is lower. Now, as to the reduction in staffing, perhaps Dr. Mindel could speak to that, because we've had some discussion at the KC about the PDD. You know how the PDD program is moving forward?
We have talked about actually combining PDD programs and moving some of the preschools, centrally locating the preschools, moving the one of the SEAM programs out, so that the 3 SEAM programs would be at the hood. There wouldn't be anything at the little. And this is because they're as Carl just said, the projected enrollment as it is right now would make it not efficient, inefficient. What did Roger Clemens say? I misremembered. I misremembered what I wanted to say there. It would be inefficient to keep one in every school. So, but there is a very hard and fast student-teacher ratio, and I believe it's it's certainly not more than 8 kids to a teacher, and then if you go beyond that, you have to put an aide in the room. So I'm not sure that reduction in the PDD programs would necessarily result in a staff reduction, because one of the reasons we do what we do is, what we're planning on doing is because the entire PDD class now is actually going to become a kindergarten class, a PDD kindergarten class, which doesn't exist. And so they're going to stay in the same room with the same teacher and the same aide for continuity's sake. So we're actually creating